Hey everyone, welcome to the fourth part of our Unity 6 Mario game tutorial series. If you have missed any of the previous videos, you can find them in the description. Today we are building the question mark block and add its animations. So let's get started. First, download these PNG files from the link in the description below and import these into your project. To keep things organized, go into the textures folder and create a new folder and name it PNG. Simply import all the downloaded files into this folder. Now create an empty game object and rename it to game world. Grab our ground object into the game world. Replace the default ground sprite with the actual floor sprite. Resize the floor to fit into the scene. Also, don't forget to reset the box collider 2D as well. Create another empty game object inside game world and rename it to question mark coin. Add a square sprite inside this object and rename it to wall. Assign the question mark sprite to the wall object. Scale up the wall sprite a bit. Use 2 for both X and Y scales. It looks good. Alright, now add box collider 2D to the wall. Create another empty game object inside wall and rename it to jump section. Add a box collider 2D to the jump section. Resize the collider to sit at the top of the wall. Don't forget to change its layer from default to ground. Go back to the wall object. Add another box collider 2D. Check each trigger and resize it to cover the bottom of the wall. This is where the player will hit to trigger the animation. Now let's create a new wall collision C# script. Now let's start writing the code. Create a private animator and a public boolean. In the start method, get the animator component. Write an onTrigger into 2D function to check if the player has collided with the block. If it's the player, set the animation to true. Write an onTrigger exit 2D function to check when the player leaves the block. If it's the player, set the animation to false. Save the script and attach it to the wall object. With the wall selected, go to the animations folder. Create a new folder for wall animations and rename the animation to idle. Save it, hit record. Move the question mark block slightly to set the initial position, copy the position and then paste that same position after leaving some space. Create another animation clip named bounce, paste the same initial frame that we copied earlier at the start and leave some space. Slightly move the block above to create another frame. Now paste the starting frame at the few distance apart. Adjust the spacing to control the animation speed. Play around with it until you are satisfied. Go to the animator window, create transition from idle to bounce, back to the idle, and add a boolean parameter named isBounce. Ensure it matches the code exactly. For the idle to bounce transition, uncheck the has exit time and set the condition isBounce true. For bounce to idle transition, leave has exit time checked and set the condition isBounce is false. Now navigate to the bounce animation and uncheck loop time so it doesn't repeat unnecessarily. Okay, now hit play. As you can see, the bounce animation is playing when the player hits the block, but in the actual game, the sprite for the block changes as if it was blinking. Now let's implement that. Let's start by creating a new C# script and name it question mark. Now create a public sprite array to hold the different block backgrounds. Add a private sprite renderer to manage the sprite changes and an integer to drag the current background index. Now in the start method, get the sprite renderer component of the block. Start a coroutine to handle the background changes. Inside the coroutine, use a loop that continuously changes the sprite based on the current background index. Update the index by adding 1 and taking the remainder when dividing by the total number of backgrounds. If the index is 0, wait for 0.4 seconds, otherwise wait for 0.15 seconds. Save your script when done and assign it to the wall. Now in the inspector, set the size of the sprite to array to 3. Now navigate to your PNGs folder and add the sprite one by one. Hit play. Now as you can see, the background is blinking as expected and it also bounces when the player hits it. Thank you so much for watching this video. In the next video, we'll add coins, mushrooms and wall breaking effects. Until next time, keep learning.